Autumn, 1568. Kai Province, central Japan. The morning mist rolls low across the rice fields, curling around the wooden practice yards of a samurai encampment. The air hums with the sound of iron striking wood swords clashing, armor creaking, the grunts of men locked in elegant violence. Rows of young warriors, their faces hardened by duty and pride, train under the watchful eyes of their lords. Banners ripple in the pale sun, stitched with the crimson mon of the Takeda clan. Every movement is deliberate, a ritual of grace and death, passed down from fathers who believed that the sword was the only true measure of a warrior. At the edge of the field, a group of Ashigaru peasant foot soldiers drill with long spears, their bare feet digging into the mud. Their weapons, the yari, glint dull in the weak light. They stand in tight lines, unflinching, moving as one body. But their effort draws only laughter from mounted samurai watching nearby. Peasants pretending to be warriors, one of them scoffs, adjusting the crimson plume on his helmet. No honor in a stick, only in steel. The others nod, their laughter echoing through the valley. To them, these men are tools' bodies to slow an enemy's blade before the true fight begins. The spear is a farmer's weapon, not a samurai's. But behind the arrogance, the world is shifting. The Sengoku period has torn Japan apart, 100 years of endless war. Castles burn on every horizon. Warlords rise and fall like waves, each one clawing for control of the islands. And in this chaos, a quiet revolution begins not in palaces or temples, but in muddy fields, where men like these peasants learn to fight, not for glory, but for survival. A single rider watches from a hill above. His armor is plain, his gaze sharp, Oda Nobunaga, a man already whispered about across provinces. He says nothing as he observes the training below. The proud mounted samurai swinging swords that once ruled battlefields, and the barefoot peasants moving in perfect unison with their spears. He can see what others cannot, that the age of individual heroism is dying, that in its place, a new form of warfare will rise, disciplined, coordinated, and merciless. The wind shifts. Nobunaga turns his horse toward the east. Far beyond the mist lies a field that will decide the fate of the samurai's pride, Nagashino. The laughter of the mounted men fades into the distance, carried by the wind, a sound soon to be swallowed by thunder. Winter, 1573, Owari Province. Snow drifts softly over the castle courtyard. Beneath a canopy of pine trees, Oda Nobunaga stands in silence, watching a line of Ashigaru drill in the cold morning air. Their spears gleam with frost. Every step, every thrust moves like a heartbeat, steady, relentless, unified. He speaks quietly to his chief retainer, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who stands beside him, wrapped in a heavy cloak. Steel alone no longer wins battles, Nobunaga murmurs. Order does. Hideyoshi glances at the peasants below. They lack bloodline, my lord. Can discipline replace honor? Nobunaga's lips tighten. Honor feeds the dead. Precision feeds the living. The wind carries the words across the training yard, where one Ashigaru falters and is struck sharply by his commander's wooden staff. Nobunaga's soldiers do not train for show, they train to endure, to hold formation under fear, to strike when commanded, not when moved by pride. Inside the castle walls, many of Nobunaga's own generals whisper doubts. The old lords see his ideas as blasphemy, turning the sacred art of war into a farmer's trade. But Nobunaga's mind is fixed on what he has seen, cavalry charging into spear walls, men dying for titles that mean nothing when the dust settles. Later that night, in his war room lit by candlelight and smoke, Nobunaga unrolls a map across the tatami mats. Ink-stained symbols mark the border of Mikawa Takeda Katsuyori's domain, son of the legendary Takeda Shingen. Known for the fiercest cavalry in Japan, Hideyoshi breaks the silence. My lord, The Takeda horses strike like thunder. No wall can stand long before them. Nobunaga looks up from the map, eyes dark but calm. "Then we will not build walls," he says. "We will build rhythm." He gestures toward a wooden model of a battlefield, rows of stakes, earthen mounds, barriers aligned like waves. Spears in front, arquebusiers behind. 3 lines. When the first fires, the second reloads, the third aims. The field will breathe like a living thing. Hideyoshi nods slowly, understanding. The combination of peasant discipline and the thunder of matchlock guns, a new force unlike anything Japan has seen. The snow outside grows heavier. Drums echo faintly in the distance, the sound of soldiers training through the night. Nobunaga steps out into the cold, his armor half-fastened, breath turning to mist. He looks east toward Mikawa and whispers to himself, "When the horse meets the storm, we shall see which one breaks." The age of swords is ending. The age of strategy is about to begin. June 1575, the plains of Nagashino, Mikawa province. Dawn breaks through a curtain of fog. The rain has stopped, but the ground is soaked, heavy with the scent of mud and blood from the night before. Crows circle above a valley where thousands of men wait silent, tense, their armor glistening beneath pale light. On one side of the river, Takeda Katsuyori's banners ripple crimson against the mist. His cavalry, the proud heirs of Takeda Shingen's legacy, paw the wet earth, restless beneath the weight of their iron harness. Men whisper of their fathers' victories, their invincible charge that once shattered whole armies. Across the valley, Oda Nobunaga's forces stand behind lines of wooden palisades, sharp stakes driven deep into the mud. The men behind them are not nobles. They are farmers, fishermen, and laborers turned soldiers. They grip their long spears, the yari, and the unfamiliar weight of matchlock guns that rest on wooden supports. A drum beats once, then silence. Rainwater drips from the gun barrels, forming tiny ripples and puddles. Nobunaga rides slowly along the line, his red armor muted beneath the gray sky. He stops beside a group of trembling Ashigaru and dismounts. "Do not fear their horses," he says quietly, his voice cutting through the wind. The man who holds the line is greater than the man who breaks it. He turns to his general, Tokugawa Ieyasu, whose troops reinforce the flank. When they come, Nobunaga warns, they will come like a storm. Do not meet them, let them crash. Far across the field, Katsuyori watches through the mist. He laughs, disbelief written across his face. So, this is Nobunaga's grand defense? Fences and peasants? His men cheer, eager to ride. To them, nothing is more honorable than the charge, the thunder of hooves, the scream of lances cutting through ranks of cowards. The wind shifts. The smell of gunpowder drifts faintly through the air, a scent unfamiliar and unsettling. Trumpets sound from the Takeda line. The first cavalry units form up, their armor clattering like steel rain. Swords gleam, horses snort and rear. A lone rider, Katsuyori himself, raises his spear to the heavens and shouts, "For the Takeda name, for glory!" And then, like a wave breaking loose, thousands of cavalrymen surge forward, black and red banners unfurling behind them. The valley shakes. The sound grows until it drowns out everything: the drums, the wind, even the fear. Behind the wooden walls, Nobunaga's soldiers kneel. Flint strikes steel, sparks catch. The first line of arquebuses lowers into position. Smoke thickens. The horses draw closer, their eyes wide, hooves tearing through the earth. The world holds its breath. And then thunder. A wall of flame erupts across the Oda line. The first volley tears through the air, cutting men and beasts alike. The charge stumbles, but the second line fires before the echoes fade. Then the third, rhythm, just as Nobunaga promised. Cavalry crashes against wood and steel, spears thrust from the gaps, piercing through armor. Screams rise, swallowed by gunfire and smoke. The Takeda, charged the pride of Japan, meets the storm of the New Age. And for the first time in their history, the samurai's courage is not enough. The valley of Nagashino had become a furnace of mud, smoke, and thunder. The first wave of Takeda cavalry lay shattered before the wooden barricades, men and horses twisted together, armor torn open by lead and spear. The ground, once green, was now a mire of red and brown. Yet, through the haze, more banners surged forward. Takeda Katsuyori, shouting from horseback, refused to yield. "Forward!" he roared. "Their guns cannot fire forever." And again, the samurai spurred their mounts, driving them into the storm. The second wave broke like a flood, crashing against Nobunaga's defenses. Arquebusiers reloaded with trembling hands, smoke stinging their eyes, sparks biting their fingers. "Ready!" The commanders shouted over the roar. "Fire!" The line erupted once more. Iron balls ripped through armor and bone. Horses screamed, collapsing mid-stride. The very earth seemed to convulse beneath the impact. Yet through it all, the peasants held their ranks, their spears thrust through gaps in the barricades, catching any who reached the line. One young Ashigaru, barely more than a boy, drove his spear upward as a rider crashed toward him. The tip struck beneath the horse's jaw. The animal screamed and fell, crushing the samurai beneath its weight. The boy stood frozen for a heartbeat, then shouted not from glory, but from disbelief that he had lived. Beyond the smoke, Nobunaga's banners still stood unbroken. His formation, 3 lines of alternating gunfire, pulsed like the heartbeat of the battlefield. When one row emptied its guns, another stepped forward, the rhythm never faltering. "Keep the rhythm," cried the captains. "Do not rush. Fire on command." The discipline that once seemed laughable now commanded the fate of empires. On the opposite hill, Tokugawa Ieyasu watched through narrowed eyes, the flicker of flames reflecting in his helmet. "He's changing the soul of war," he murmured. A final Takeda wave gathered at the rear, the last of Katsuyori's cavalry. Banners tattered, armor blood-stained. They screamed their war cries and charged into the storm. For a brief moment, the world was nothing but noise and fury. The gunners' lines vanished in smoke, the barricades splintered, and men collided in a blur of steel and flesh. Then silence. When the wind cleared the gunpowder haze, the valley lay still. Hundreds of horses lay strewn across the field, their riders unmoving. The proud Takeda banners hung torn, half buried in mud. Among the fallen, a samurai still breathed, his hand clutching the broken shaft of his spear. His lips moved, whispering to no one. How? Could peasants? He died before finishing the thought. Nobunaga rode slowly to the front lines. His soldiers, caked in mud and ash, bowed their heads as he passed. He dismounted, surveying the devastation not with triumph, but with quiet certainty. He turned to Hideyoshi. "The age of the sword," he said, "has ended." A single volley echoed in the distance, clearing the last of the Takeda resistance. Smoke drifted upward, twisting into the gray sky, a requiem for 1,000 years of samurai pride. The valley was silent once more, save for the soft crackle of fire on wet grass. The storm had passed. The world it left behind was no longer the same. Evening, June 1575. The fields of Nagashino. The rain returned before sunset. Gentle now, not the storm that had drenched the morning, but a soft, sorrowful drizzle that washed the blood from the grass. Crows gathered along the hills, their cries echoing through the empty valley where tens of thousands had stood hours before. Nobunaga's campfires flickered across the field like constellations fallen to earth. The acrid scent of gunpowder still clung to the air. Smoke rose from shattered armor, from splintered fences, from the bodies of men who had believed themselves invincible. Alone, Ashigaru sat by the barricade he had defended, staring at the spear still clutched in his hands. The shaft was chipped and splattered with mud. It had saved his life the same farmer's stick the samurai once mocked. He looked across the field toward the fallen cavalry and whispered a prayer for the dead. Beyond him, Nobunaga walked the battlefield in silence. His armor was scorched and dented, his face calm but unreadable. All around, his men bowed deeply, whispering his name with reverence and fear. He paused beside a fallen horse, its rider still pinned beneath. The armor bore the crest of the Takeda, a red sunburst faded with dust and blood. For a long time, Nobunaga said nothing. Then, almost softly, "The world does not mourn for those who refuse to change." Hideyoshi approached, his cloak soaked through. "My lord," he said quietly, "the Takeda line is broken." Katsuyori fled with what remains. Nobunaga nodded, his eyes never left the field. Then the Age of Thunder begins. He turned toward the distant hills where lightning flashed faintly in the clouds, as if the heavens themselves acknowledged what had been born here. For centuries, Japan had worshipped the blade, the artistry of a single strike, the poetry of death. But at Nagashino, that poetry was drowned beneath the rhythm of gunfire and the unity of men who fought not as heroes, but as one. The old code's Bushido, the worship of personal glory, had shattered like broken steel beneath the hooves of Takeda's fallen cavalry. From now on, victory belonged not to the proud, but to the disciplined. As the night deepened, Nobunaga's army lit thousands of torches. From afar, the valley glowed like a sea of stars, a funeral pyre for the age of the sword. The camera drifts upward past the smoke, past the rain, to the sky above Mikawa. Below, the land lies scarred, but silent. And in that silence, a single truth remains. On this muddy field, the samurai's pride died, and modern warfare was born.